Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words. Today we're playing some more Legacy, and post-ban world is Show and Tell back on the menu. Show and Tell decks, both Omni Tell and Sneak Show, have been doing very poorly over the last 19 or so weeks, and now that there's no Blue-Black Reanimator, at least not in the form that it once was, that means that we should be able to more reliably cast things like Show and Tell without just losing the game on the spot. So I found this really interesting Omni Tell list in the 5.0 deck dump from the other day. And it intrigued me because it's running Urza's Tower and Planar Nexus. So we've got this little burst of mana that we can use, and we can funnel that into Kozilek's command and our One Ring. The main game plan of this deck, though, is to cast Show and Tell. We would like to put into play the card Omniscience, which allows us to play all the cards from our hand without paying their mana cost. So we can just cast an Emrakul, we can cast an Atraxa and dig for stuff. Our Lorien Revealed that finds us a land now can just draw us 3 cards. We've got these stock-ups. We've got the Brainstorm, so we should be able to chain everything together until we win, once we have the Omniscience in play. Sometimes we'll just Show and Tell and put in the Emrakul or Atraxa and hope that's good enough. We also have a Cunning Wish plan, so we can go to the sideboard and we can go and get something like Shared Summons, which allows us to just tutor for Atraxa and Emrakul, cast them, take our extra turn, win the game that way. We can also use the Cunning Wish more fairly to get things like Noxious Revival and put cards back on top, or just get some useful bullets that we'll talk about in a minute. This deck is now a Tamiyo deck, which doesn't surprise me. I think this makes a lot of sense to stick in a deck like this, and I'm surprised there's only 3 of them, to be honest. But we're going to play it and see how it feels. We've got some fast mana in the form of Ancient Tomb and Lotus Petal as well. There's a Mistrise Village, so where you can try and nail counterspell decks and just ignore them. And for stuff that's trying to go underneath us, we've got Force of Will, which can also protect our own combo, and Force of Negation to stop some of our opponent's spooky things. Out of the sideboard, we've got a bunch of Cunning Wish targets. We've got the Force of Negation, and we've got Sublime Epiphany. Sublime Epiphany is usually one you get when you have your Omniscience in play, you go to do something, or your opponent has a trigger on the stack, and then they try and blow up your Omniscience. You then Cunning Wish for the Sublime Epiphany, and then you counterspell their Besage or whatever with the Stifle portion of this card. We've got Hydroblast, Flusterstorm, a couple of Consigns, Dismember, Surgicals, just a bunch of good sideboard cards. Another Mistrise Village when we want extra protection from counterspells. A little bit of Graveyard Hate in the Cage alongside these Surgicals. We've got Null Rod, and we've also got Eldrazi Confluence, which is one you might not be familiar with. It's a 4 mana instant. We choose 3. We can choose the same mode more than once. +3, -3 to a creature. Flicker a non-land permanent, or create a 1/1 spawn that can sack for mana. So a relatively flexible thing that we can hopefully do some cool stuff with. Probably also worth mentioning the Portent of Calamity. This is where we pay X and blue, and then we reveal the top X cards, and we basically put one of each type into our hand, a bit like Atraxa. But if there's 4 or more types in there, then we just get to cast one of them. Alright, that's what we're playing today. Please like and subscribe. I'd also like to say a big thank you to everyone who's helped me hit my 6,000 subscriber goal ahead of time. I appreciate it all, and if you'd like to support me financially, I've got a Patreon, YouTube membership, all that sort of jazz, so check it out. Alright, let's get stuck in with some Omni Tell. For free, fast, and secure worldwide shipping on high-end singles, classic products, and full sets, check out 3for1 Trading. Whether it's the Legacy or pre-modern that I play on this channel, or even vintage and old school, they've got you covered. Find them through the link in the description of this video and use my code COWFREE for free worldwide shipping on your first order over $500 or euros. Alright, our first opener does not really get us where we need to go because there's no mana, so we're going to send this one back. Same problem, not the greatest start to the league, mulling to 5 in our first game. We've got 20 lands and a couple of petals, that's pretty responsible for this sort of deck. And we've also got the Lorien Revealed, it's kind of like an extra land as well. But we are going to have to go to 5 on our very first hand. Okay, so now we've mulliganed into the One Ring. Okay. So let's keep the One Ring. Can we keep Force of a blue card and just bin off a couple of lands? It's a little bit all in, but it's powerful. I think when we mull to this low, we need to have something powerful and a way of protecting it. We could keep the land, but then what are we doing here? We could just have the stock up and maybe just try and stock our way up to victory. I think our best bet is to aim high with a turn 2 One Ring backed up by Counterspell. Wasteland on the other side is going to be a bit of a problem. It's not a Wasteland. Grim Monolith. I don't think this is the one we're countering. We're going to see a key here and then an untap. Another Grim Monolith. Pretty glad we didn't counter the first Grim Monolith. There's a key, so now they're going to have a bunch of mana. So we're going to try and bottleneck them on payoff. 5 mana. It's a One Ring. We say no to the One Ring. And then it's our turn to have the One Ring. So another thing to note about this combination of Urza's Tower plus Planar Nexus is that it gives you Show and Tell mana off of 2 lands as well. Because you filter one of them through the Planar Nexus for the blue. It's our turn to be the One Ring gamer, and ours is coming into play first. Now they have Karns in their deck, which is a little bit spooky. We drew a Tamiyo. Not the worst, we can certainly use that to accrue even more cards until we find our combo. The fact that we do have like a proper I-Win button in Omniscience means that we can fall a little bit behind while our opponent accumulates resources, and it's not the end of the world. Right, this is just an Urza's Tower without anything to support it, so it's just 1 mana. We're going to see another One Ring. Or just going to be Karn. Karn would be problematic, so we're not going to be able to get any more value out of our One Ring. This looks like a Kozilek's Command. So it's going to give them 3 spawns, which, unless they have a key, won't give them enough to drop a Karn this turn. Because they could sack 1 for a key, sack 1 to untap the monolith, 3/4, jam a Karn. Which is what we don't want to see. 2 top, 1 bottom. Alright, back to us. Hopefully this is the turn where we start pulling ahead in a big way. That's certainly step 1. This is going to enter tapped, isn't it? The only play we have available to us right now is make the Tamiyo. I will play this and get the tap land out of the way. And now our opponent's probably confused about what's actually happening in our deck, because this is kind of an unusual spread of cards. But I do think whoever cracks the Tamiyo plus One Ring deck first is going to probably win a challenge at some point. And maybe define the meta moving forward. Right, so they've got their Planar Nexus. They've massively jumped up on mana this turn. Voltaic Key, that's more mana. We need our opponent to not land a Karn. If we can get 1 more activation of this One Ring, I'm pretty confident we can win the game. Generally speaking, 3 activations of the One Ring is enough. Like 6 cards off of your 1 card is a lot. Okay, they're making more mana. So they could do a big Kozilek's Command. That'll probably just beat us here. Because they'll be able to find what they want and then also play it. They could just Karn and Lattice lock us straight away. And that's the end of the game. Kozilek's Command. This is going to give them 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So they're still going to have enough mana to Karn and Lattice lock, which is why they've chosen this amount to do it with. They're getting rid of our Tamiyo. Oh, they haven't made spawns. They're just getting rid of our Tamiyo. I don't think that's right. I think they need to aim higher and just make a load of spawns and try and win the game this turn. Or stop me from winning the game this turn. 1 top, 4 bottom. Disruptor Flutes. They're going to name the One Ring and shut that off. So we've got 3 cards out of our 1 card. And technically a 4th card because we took out our opponent's Disruptor Flute. This can help us filter towards getting the Atraxa, but it's not really particularly viable. We're going to need to find some other mana sources if we want to put this Atraxa into play. Cunning Wish. Right, let's look at our wish board, shall we? What works here? So this is exile target non-land permanent. It immediately blinks it. It's not like an end of turn, so we can't just get another hit off of this. Hydroblast, not doing anything here. Consign to Memory is useful. That is something we can work with. We're going to play this Ancient Tomb out. Noxious Revival, not the most useful. Force of Negation could be useful in this board state. I'll leave our sideboard here just so we can keep it in mind as we're playing through this game. This is the bit in paper where I would have just picked up my sideboard and had a look at it, and our opponent immediately knows what we've drawn. An Ancient Tomb. What would they not be playing out with all this mana? It would have to be a One Ring, I guess. I don't think we need a Cunning Wish there. We can just save this in case something better happens. I'm trying to work out how I want to cast this. I could tap the Ancient Tomb. I think that's fine. And the Mistrise Village. That gives us the most mana to work with afterwards. Let's stock up. Force of Negation plus a stock up. If we go and get this Lotus Petal, we have 1 colour, 2 colour, 3 colours. We still can't even cast Atraxa. I think it's stock up and Force of Negation. And then we can stock up here. We don't really need the Cunning Wish, and we have this. Okay, I would like this. Show and Tell. Do we have a Surveil land? We do not have a Surveil land. I think I still take the Misty. Play our land out. So next time we can put an Atraxa in, which is likely to find us maybe another show and tell and hopefully an Omniscience, and then we can win the game. Our opponent is kind of just durdling around over there. I wonder how many One Rings are stuck in their hand. I'm not going to crack this because we don't have a Surveil land, and we want the cards that we put to the bottom to be on the bottom for when we Atraxa. Portent of Calamity. Is that better than an Atraxa? Almost certainly not. Let's show and tell. What's our opponent going to put in here? The One Ring. What does this find us? We have an Omniscience. Is an enchantment. Force of Will is an instant here. Alright, our opponent's scooping to the Atraxa, which makes sense because we're going to have Force of Will up here. They don't know about this one. But we did just stock up twice into Atraxa, so our hand's going to be stacked. This feels like a matchup where I would like to have access to Null Rod. These consigns look pretty good. Let's get these in the main. Force of Negation also looks pretty good. We don't really need Surgicals. I don't particularly want Dismember. Dismember is something we can reach for with a Cunning Wish if we want to, but generally speaking, this is only going to hit their Fleshraker, and hopefully we can just go through that in other fashions. Doesn't seem like a great matchup for Tamiyo. Like if we're boarding in the Null Rods, it does make our One Ring worse. Now we could take out our One Ring, but this is going to get us to casting the Null Rods and things. So I think it's fine to keep these in because this is just objectively the most powerful thing that our... Well, not necessarily the most powerful thing that our deck does, but it's certainly one of the more powerful things we have available. I would like to cut one more card from this. Is it the Cunning Wish? I think the Cunning Wish gets worse post-board. Let's try it with a Cunning Wish cut. Leave our sideboard popped out. We have a show and tell. We have an Omniscience. There is something lacking here, and that would be mana. We got 20 lands plus Lotus Petal plus this Brainstorm. I think I'm going to keep this one. Is that true? Because if we have to Force of Will, then we're kind of nowhere. No, I'm going to believe in... Am I going to believe in this? We draw a land or we Brainstorm, we lock ourselves. Okay, I'm going to be disciplined and mulligan this one. This is a very similar hand. So we want to keep land, Lotus Petal, show and tell. What are we going to show and tell in? We can show and tell him an Omniscience is probably the best thing we can show and tell in. Which means we probably just get rid of a spare show and tell. So if we draw an Ancient Tomb, we just get to go on turn 1 and probably win the game. And I don't think our opponent can beat that with their deck. I suppose they could have some sort of Mindbreak Trap action, but that's probably going to be too late. Because we go Petal, show and tell, put the Omniscience in, the next spell we cast. Alright, Mishra's Research Desk. This is just like a little bit of card advantage you can find off of a saga. Show and tell. I'm going to deploy this Lotus Petal and expose it. I don't think so. We just need to find a mana source and then we're away here. Planar Nexus. Our opponent has 4 mana. They can play the One Ring. That doesn't bother us too much. We have a counterspell ready to go without actually interfering with our plan. When they've assembled this, I don't think it's worth hitting this. Tezzeret Cruel Captain. Sure, I think that's fine as well. It's obviously quite a powerful permanent, but it's not the thing that's going to interfere with what we're doing necessarily. They can tutor for something, like a key here. And then they can just get their mana engine running very nicely. Because they can play it. Yep, so it was the key. So they play the key. They untap the Grim Monolith. Which they obviously could have done with Tezzeret, but this is going to give them more mana on the following turn. So they're building up for a bigger turn next turn, and we're hoping that our opponent doesn't really get a next turn. Or if they do, we can at least punish them with this force and buy ourselves another turn. Lotus Petal is going to put counter on Tezzeret. They're going to have 2 cards left in hand. This is enough to cast the One Ring. Karn the Great Creator. We can't allow that. We'll pitch this spare show and tell. So we can't allow this because it shuts off our Lotus Petal, which is our route to victory here. Alright, any land or a Lotus Petal off the top. It's going to be a Lorien Revealed. I feel it in my bones. Stock up. That's not the one, is it? I don't want to play this out in case they play a card and plus it. But we have missed on land twice. I'm still happy with the keep. I think it makes sense. It's just looking a little bit unfortunate for us right now because they're going to get to jam something big here. If this was bait to get the One Ring, that actually works out better for us. We're going to have an easier time beating the One Ring than we are beating Karn, provided we draw a land in the next turn, maybe 2. Oh, are we in Mr. Research Desk mode? That is a bit of desperation there. Fleshraker is fine. I think we're likely to kill them before this matters. Or we're just going to brick off forever and it doesn't matter whatever our opponent does because our deck just doesn't cooperate. Alright, we're untapping the Monolith. I assume we're going to see it to play the Fleshraker. There it is. They've got 2 mana left available. They haven't used a Tezzeret yet, which can go up or down. So they could untap the Grim Monolith, have 4 mana and play the One Ring. Or they could minus it and get another key. Right, Disruptive Flute. They're going to name Show and Tell. This is a disaster. We really need to not brick on land for 2 turns. This is going to name Show and Tell. 100%. And we don't really have ways of answering the Disruptive Flute. That also puts a counter on Tezzeret, so then now they can tutor again. They can also cast it off of this spawn. It's just going to be another key, perhaps. It's a Mox Opal. This is going to give them mana from the Fleshraker. This is also going to be able to tap for mana as well. It's going to put them up to 3 mana if they've got another spell they want to cast. That was a very good turn for our opponent and a very bad turn for us. We're going to draw the land now because it's too late. Portent of Calamity. We've got a plan, I guess. It's not looking great. We need to draw into Urza's Tower, and then we can try a Portent of Calamity for 4. And if we hit 4 different types, we might just flat out win the game. But there's not a lot of time. This Fleshraker is going to eat away at us pretty quickly. They're almost certainly going to cycle the Soul Red Lantern as well. There it goes. They just want to keep playing spells. They don't even care what the spells are at this point. 4 mana. It's the One Ring. That is a pretty good spell, but we can still beat that because Portent of Calamity could allow us to cast an Omniscience or an Emrakul. I think because they've got this Manifold Key, they're going to untap the One Ring and get stuck in. They're leaving the Mox Opal up because this can be coloured mana, so it's slightly more flexible than a spawn. Another key. There is a Karn that's going to shut off the Lotus Petal, which is one of the things we actually needed. I think we can just scoop this one up. I think it's gone a little bit out of our reach there. Do I want Tamiyos in? I don't think I do. Like, we're not going to get enough time for this to actually matter. Then we're just going to send it again. We could play a land over a Lotus Petal. That makes us slightly slower, but have more permanent sources of mana. Alright, this kind of works for us, doesn't it? Because we can Cunning Wish. Yeah, this all works quite nicely. We need our opponent to not have a really good turn 1. If they make Karn on turn 1, we could lose still. Which is wild when we have a turn 2 Omniscience with Cunning Wish. Just play something fair. Okay, Urza's Workshop is unlikely to mess us up. They can't disrupt a Flute yet. The One Ring. Let's play a Lotus Petal. Let's Show and Tell. Put in the Omniscience. We don't need to cast the Cunning Wish straight away. Let's draw a card. Alright, now let's cast the Cunning Wish. Let's get the Shared Summons. Let's cast this for free. Get an Emrakul and an Atraxa. Cast the Emrakul. We get to gobble up all of our opponent's permanents, and we also get to hit them for lethal damage next turn. Force of Will. Alright, our opponent scooped it up. So we do have a game plan that goes underneath what our opponent's deck tends to do. Now, they can sometimes do some really, really disgusting turn 2 stuff, but generally speaking, Mystic Forge is a thing that's trying to kill you on sort of turn 3 to 5 for the most part. So we are able to go underneath that, and we don't have to worry about Blue-Black Reanimator anymore. So we had a nice stab at it, and we showed what this deck can do. Let's go to round 2. This is a turn 1 Atraxa with Force of Will backup that will likely become double Force of Will once the Atraxa sticks. This is something that, if we were to play against Blue-Black Reanimator and put this in, and it was our opponent put in an Archon of Cruelty, we could just lose the game on the spot. But now that that deck, the way it was configured, no longer exists, there are some Blue-Black Reanimator decks still that are more Turbo Reanimator, so that is something to look out for. But it's certainly not as strong as it was, and it's also not 25% of the meta or 20% of the meta or whatever it is. So this is something where we can just relatively confidently send it and assume it's going to work out well for us. Now, there are obviously situations where it doesn't, but I don't think we pass up on the turn 1 Atraxa with Force of Will backup. Our opponent is on the play, so there could be things like the tempo decks with Daze and Force of Will that we need to kind of be aware of. But then we have to play around Wasteland and we can't really do that, so we probably just send regardless. But let's see what our opponent does on their first turn. Our opponent is not playing anything on their first turn. Why is that happening? Very confusing. Are they doing oops or spells and they're just missing a piece? I don't think we're not going for it here. It is the Balustrade Spy. If they target themselves, they lose here, right? Unless they have an Elvish Spirit Guide in their hand. But hopefully we can just counterspell their Memory's Journey. Alright, targeting us. Sure. What do we have here? We're taking blue cards, I'll tell you that much. So this is the only artifact, the only enchantment, the only creature, the only instant. Got sorcery here, and a land. Pretty nice. I'll say done. And our cup runneth over here. I'm going to discard the One Ring. I'm also going to discard... So we got blue card, blue card. So we've got 2 Force of Wills, 2 blue cards. We've got an Atraxa. We don't really need the Atraxa. That can go. Stock up is decent here. Probably better than assembling the Planar Nexus combo, to be honest with you. Let's get rid of the tower. We don't need to hold on for long with a 7/7 Vigilance, Lifelink, Death Touch guy. Lotus Petal. I don't think that's where we're fighting. The fact that we can still lose this game is kind of scary. We have a choice between stocking up or Cunning Wish for a guaranteed counterspell, but the guaranteed counterspell is probably not going to be the most useful, actually. An Undercity Informer. Alright, let's say no to this one, and I'll pitch an Omniscience. Bootsal spells is definitely something that everyone's got their eye on. They burned 2 Spirit Guides to make that, which is something. This is Graveyard Hate, which is not the worst, is it? Let's bash away. I'll play this land out. We're just going to stock up looking for Force of Will plus blue card. Force of Will and a blue card. So next turn we can show and tell nothing in. Sure. We're just on the Atraxa beatdown, which should be fine. We have double counterspell. Cabal Therapy could be really annoying because we can't stop that because they have the creature in play. And these decks do run Cabal Therapy. They need to find a land, and they've been missing on those for a while. Garden of Freyalise. Okay, they can buy themselves an extra turn with this Balustrade Spy, but that does shut off the possibility of having a good time with Cabal Therapy. I'll play out this Planar Nexus. I will attack. Alright, so the Cabal Therapy is probably something we have to Force of Will, to be honest. We do have the ability to Cunning Wish, but we can't Cunning Wish for something that we can immediately cast. We could Cunning Wish for the Force of Negation if we want to permanently remove something. We could Cunning Wish right now just for another counterspell. We could Cunning Wish for a Noxious Revival, then put the stock up back on top. Doesn't seem the best. We can hold up the Cunning Wish to go and get Surgical. Brainstorm is pretty good. Let's attack. We haven't made a land drop yet, but we do have triple Force of Will if we just hold these cards, so that's fine by me. It's do or die time, opponent. Alright, we built the naughty Oopsal spells. We don't like Oopsal spells. What would we like to combat them? I like some Consign to Memories. Where do they go? Over here. So I like these. This is definitely not a Tamiyo matchup. We're just never going to be able to use that. I like the Null Rod, a card that does anything. I'll take it. We want the Surgicals, and we want the Noxious Revival, because this can sometimes mess with their plan a little bit. Force of Negation, we just want this in the main deck to survive. Same with the Flusterstorm. So we need to cut 6 things to fit these pieces in. This is Graveyard Hate, so I like to keep this. We're obviously going to keep all of our counter magic. Is the One Ring too slow here? Is that what this game is about? Probably not. It's also not blue. And we're balling in Null Rods. Do we keep these Lotus Petals? I think being able to go quick is probably good. Even if we're going to shut them off. The Cunning Wish doesn't have as many good targets right now, so I think we can board out a Cunning Wish. Do we board out all of them? What would we even be going for here? Like, maybe there's a situation where we want the shared summons, or... Well, there's probably a few situations where we want the shared summons, to be honest. How much are we going to want, let's say... Sublime Epiphany, that's okay. Sometimes there are situations where we want to dismember, so like these 3 cards may be useful. Maybe I'm just going to cut one of the wishes. It's still in there, so we can go through a whole deck pretty much with the stock-ups and things. And then we need another cut. It's probably the Portent of Calamity. It's a little bit too shields down to be casting that one, I think. And also this doesn't work with Grafdigger's Cage, because you do cast them when they're revealed from your library. Okay, we've got some tools. This is the sort of hand that you would keep against useful spells, but looks pretty bad everywhere else. But all we need is an Ancient Tomb. We're golden, right? We have 2 pieces of protection for our opponent's turn 1 kill, and we have singular cards we can draw that give us the turn 1 win, basically. Although, is putting Emrakul into play a turn 1 win? Not necessarily. Like, we cast it, we draw another card, but then they do still get a turn. And annihilating all their opponents doesn't really matter, because their deck doesn't play very many until they win. Summoner's Pact. Alright, our opponent is going this turn. Kind of wild to still see people playing Summoner's Pact builds. I think the Summoner's Pact builds are significantly worse than the builds without them. Because if you don't have Summoner's Pact, you get to send it multiple times and your opponent just kind of eventually falls apart. Lotus Petal. Spirit Guide. They've got over there as well. Another Summoner's Pact. So we are going all in here. A third Summoner's Pact. So they're going to burn all of these guys and play a Balustrade Spy. Alright, they're playing an Undercity Informer. I'm going to try and counterspell this. And they scooped it up. This is why I don't like the Summoner's Pact builds. They've given you these broken double-faced cards that are lands. Just play them. Like the best useful spells lists run 14 lands that aren't actually lands on the front side, which is more than other combo decks do anyway. Alright, we're 2-0 though. We're beating some of the things that are anticipated to be top of the meta, like the Mystic Forge deck and neutral spells. Those things people are concerned about being the best things. So let's go to round 3. We are on the play. Our hand does not have any lands, which is a recurring theme today. Let's mulligan. Well, this is a turn 2 stock up. And our opponent's going to be confused what we're doing a little bit. They're probably going to think we're the Monoblue Cloud Post deck when they see this into stock up. We also lead on an Urza's Tower, and if they blow it up, we've got another one. What are we putting away here? I think it's probably the Tamiyo. It basically takes our entire turn to play the Tamiyo. I like Tamiyo in the builds that aren't running this sort of configuration of lands. I think when we're running these lands, it gets a little bit difficult to utilize Tamiyo to our best, because quite often we're going to have lands that don't cast Tamiyo straight away. And then if we have a choice between casting a stock up or a Tamiyo, the nature of our deck suggests that we want to be casting that stock up, because this is going to be the thing that lets us potentially just win the game next turn, whereas Tamiyo is not going to do that. It's just going to be a distraction, possibly generate us some long-term value. Keep and we'll bin the Tamiyo off. We can sink quite a lot of mana into Kozilek's command down the line. Obviously, Wasteland is going to hurt us a little bit, and Blue-Red Tempo is certainly one of the decks people are looking to be another big contender moving forward. But let's just see what happens. It's an Urza's Saga. Okay, I would like to try and win the game before our opponent pops this Saga. Lotus Petal. Are we looking at a Storm deck, or is this just going to be like 8 cast? There are options. Many Lotus Petals. Oh, only 3 though. The Mox Opal, this could still be a Beseech Storm deck. They could cast Beseech the Mirror right now, sacrificing the Mox Opal or the Urza Saga. Looks like we're storming. So they can cast another Beseech. Oh, he's going straight into Gaia's Will. Okay, I think they could have got another Beseech, sacrificing this as a Saga first. But they can do that again in a minute anyway. So they play out these 4, and then they Beseech, sacrificing whatever they want. Then it Beseeches again. This is Storm 6. Storm 7, 8, 9. And then Tendrils us. I think our opponent can work this one out from here. Even if they have the Tendrils from hand, they still kill us. Alright. I'm happy that we're dead. Well, I'm not happy about it, but I'm confident that's what's happened. I would like a Null Rod, please. Consigned Memory is useful. Fluster Storm is useful. Surge Extraction is okay. I don't think we want the Noxious Revival. What doesn't look good? Again, this is not a matchup where Tamiyo really excels. We don't have the time to leverage that sort of effect. I like Graveyard Disruption off of Kozilek's command, but it is quite pricey. The One Ring does buy us a turn against their deck. Their deck sometimes can't win that easily through the One Ring, so they kind of just wait a turn, and maybe that extra turn is going to be really good for us. We are bringing a Null Rod, but I think that's fine. I think Portent of Calamity is a little bit awkward. I am worried about our ability to make the most out of it. This allows us to hold mana up, but we're probably not holding up that much mana given the nature of how our deck works anyway. I think I'm going to trim a Cunning Wish like I've been doing quite often, and we just take out one of these Kozilek's commands. We could leave one extraction in the sideboard and put the Cunning Wish back in the main, but I don't think that's necessary. What do we do here? This is Force of Will into turn 2 Omniscience. I suspect we might be getting hit by some sort of hand disruption along the way though. I'm going to play this. I'm going to play this one out. I think so. Our opponent doesn't think that we're a blue deck at this point, or is not particularly sure we're a blue deck. They're probably going to board as if we are a Mystic Forge deck, which means they're going to board in things that blow up our permanents or bounce our permanents. Vault of Whispers. Now, they might still have Thought Seizers in because that's a fantastic Magic the Gathering card. And there it is. All right, take a look. I think they have to take the Show and Tell here. Because if we untap and Show and Tell in the Omniscience, they're in trouble. Show and Telling in the One Ring, not so hot though. But we do have a land that just lets us cast the One Ring next turn. I took the Force of Will. Are they going this turn? Flooded Strand, sure. Let's do what we came here to do, I suppose. We'll get this Trop. We'll cast the thing we have. And we'll see if it's any good. Our opponent does get to put a permanent into play. It could be Song of Creation, and then we probably just lose that, but that's a one-of in their deck. So here's Omniscience. It's just a Saga, that's fine. I can then cast this for free. We still get protection because we're casting it. So our opponent's going to struggle to win through this turn. And maybe we just draw something that wins us the game right now. Come on, deck. We did not draw a thing that immediately wins us the game, but we have protection for a turn, and we still have Omniscience in play. Our opponent can get a Lion's Eye Diamond off this Urza Saga next turn, but hopefully they're not going to have another turn after this one. There is a Lion's Eye Diamond now. They really don't want to cast an Echo of Aeons, because that just refuels our hand as well and allows us to cast counter spells and stuff. Now, if they have a Veil of Summer first, then that works out pretty well for them. But the fact that all of our spells are free, we don't need Force of Will blue card, just Force of Will on its own is really good. Infernal Tutor. Are we cracking an LED in response? We're cracking both, I assume. This might not be an Echo of Aeons build, or it might just have an Echo of Aeons that they can reach for sometimes. This feels like an Ad Nauseam build, even though it's got the Beseech. Right, just cracking one LED. Because they have to navigate through the One Ring protection as well as getting Lethal Storm and doing all their general bits and pieces. But you know, sometimes you're just going to get turn 2 a couple of times in a row without getting to do very much. We had some interaction. Our opponent carefully weaved their way through it. Can they beat the One Ring? Remains to be seen. But our opponent, it must feel like that they have the ability to beat the One Ring. Gaia's Will. Is this just like a empty the Warren's turn? Like, that might be good enough to beat us, to be fair. Because we have a draw step and one Ring activation to try and find something to actually win the game with. Now, it doesn't take much. You know, we can Brainstorm, which then finds us a stock up, which finds us more stock ups, which can find us a Cunning Wish and all sorts. Infernal Tutor. This probably gets them a Lion's Eye Diamond. It's just +1 mana there, pretty much for free. Okay, it was an Ad Nauseam. How do they get out of this? I imagine it's a Burning Wish line. Surge Node. Yeah, they thought we might be having some chalices and stuff. Let's just display what they're flipping. So the Wishcore Talisman can go and get them the Burning Wish if they're running one. And they've got a decent amount of mana here because the Cabal Rituals are going to be thresholded. Actually, no, because they've got Guy's Will running, so they won't be thresholded, will they? What are they looking for? Maybe it's just having enough mana to just put all this mana into something, and then they can Wishcore Talisman for their way out of it. They might have Cut to Ribbons, I think is the card. It's like X, black, black, each opponent loses X life. And that's something they can wish for. But they would need a lot of mana. I don't know how much mana they're realistically going to have. So they got, what, 3 right now? Which covers their Wishcore Talisman. Say 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 mana is what I count that they have available. 10, 11, 12, 13 mana. That's still quite a ways off of 19, isn't it? I guess they only need to do 18. They've got 3 life left and they paused for quite a while on this Ad Nauseam. Right, they've finished with their Ad Nauseam. Is this enough? I guess it's for our opponent to work this one out. So we're just going to sit back and hope for the best. So we're seeing all the artifact mana being played out now. So they're going to be sticking various things. Yep, Duress is no good. Stick that underneath the Chrome Mox. They've got another Chrome Mox in there somewhere. They're going to die Ritual Bunch. And then they're going to Cabal Ritual Bunch and just get all the mana. And then start spending it. Alright, an Infernal Tutor. This can go and find another Lion's Eye Diamond. Okay. That makes sense. Because that's +1 mana there. Oh, they have exactly enough here. Cabal Ritual. Another Cabal Ritual. They've got 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 mana to put into it. And they need 20 mana to kill us. I guess 19 mana also does it if we go to another turn with the One Ring. That's assuming they have like a Cut to Ribbons or whatever it's called in their sideboard, and that's what the plan is. They do have white mana in their pool. I'm not really sure why they have white mana in the pool. Is that just from a Lion's Eye Diamond they cracked and they just wanted to have... They just clicked the top option, which is white, and it didn't really matter what the colour was because they're going to have plenty of black. Right, some more artifact mana being played out. Oh, they're going to discard off of the Lion's Eye Diamond. So they still have this Beseech the Mirror, which they can use from the graveyard from when they Guy's Willed earlier. So where's this going to find them? Surely it has to be a Burning Wish. Yep, okay, so it's a Burning Wish. Now what? Debt to the Deathless. Let's read this one. I guess it's about to go on the stack, isn't it? I think it drain life for double X, and that's why they put the white in the pool. I don't know if this is lethal or not, but we'll see when it goes on the stack. So this is 10. Each opponent loses 2 times X life, so this will actually kill us. And they got the match. Very well played. Alright, we've taken our first loss. Our opponent just went quicker than us. And if we'd have hit something useful off of the One Ring, we probably would have been fine. But that is Magic the Gathering. On to round number 4. We are on the play, which is obviously a place we like to be. This hand has a significant flaw in it, though. The mana here is a little bit sketchy, and we keep running into that problem. I think we have to mulligan this. Nothing... All dressed up with nowhere to go here. I don't think we can keep this one. I don't think this is viable. We have some very powerful 5-card hands as well. Like that one where we cast a turn 2 One Ring with Force of Will backup. So I think going deeper makes sense. We're certainly living on some very fine margins given the mana base of this deck. Okay. So we have this Show and Tell. We have a basic island. Portent of Calamity can dig, I guess. We're just going to get rid of the Scalding Tarn. This is mana that we can rely on. I think we're not doing Lotus Petal things, so we can just get rid of that one. I like the Lorien Revealed here. Maybe we do just get rid of the Scalding Tarn, and this gives us the out of drawing and Urza's Tower and just having all the mana in the world. I think I will just lead off on an island though. Make our opponent think about Daze, as well as Force of Will and just generic blue stuff, because we kind of need our opponent to give us a little bit of respect on our hand, because our hand doesn't really deserve the respect. So if we can make our opponent play around some stuff. Let's just tap this island and then decide against it and let it resolve. Let our opponent think about what we might have. I'm not going to cycle this just yet. We can do that next turn. Another show and tell. That's not really the one I wanted. So I think we're going to be in a situation where we want to cycle as Lorien Revealed to make sure we get to the third land for the show and tell. At some point, we're going to have to just fire off a Portent of Calamity. We're trying to make it so the Tamiyo doesn't matter. We're just going to end up with enough advantage by just going over the top of this. So we're just going to be massively on board by the time our opponent's cracking clues, and hopefully that's all well and good. Now, they're probably going to brainstorm this turn and flip the Tamiyo. There it is. Called it. So now we have a clock on this game, because when they ultimate Tamiyo, we will lose the game. There's a possibility they've missed on land here, since they haven't played one yet. That does mean their hand is absolutely stacked. A wasteland, that's horrible for us to see. I'm going to cycle this Lorien Revealed. Go and get just a basic. We don't need green mana for anything. It's just a light splash for if we want to cast a Noxious Revival. An Atraxa. Do I Portent of Calamity for 1? I don't think so. It's just like a 2 mana draw a card. That's not really where I want to be here. We've got a little bit of time. Not a lot, but we've got a little bit. Next turn, we might have to fire off the Portent, but hopefully drawing the extra card gives us another land, which makes it more likely. We could also just cast a show and tell into a counterspell if we find a land. Because if they counterspell, we've got another one ready to go. An Atraxa. Alright, I hate this a lot, but we are desperate because we need to respect the Tamiyo. There's no way they should counterspell this. This is clearly a desperation move. I will choose this land. I will not play this land out because I don't want to get wastelanded. But then next turn we can show and tell a round of days. Our opponent will Force of Will it, they'll untap, they'll ultimate their Tamiyo, will lose the game. Temporal Mastery. Alright, we're done here. Because they get to ult the Tamiyo now. Yikes. Okay. Flusterstorm to protect what we're up to. Makes sense to me. Another land against a Wasteland deck that also has counter magic makes sense too. I don't know if we're fighting against the Tamiyo. I don't think that's the way. I think we take out a Force of Negation for a Fluster because we're fighting on our turn here. And maybe just put this Mistrise in over a Portent of Calamity. Seems like quite a big thing to try and resolve against a Day's Wasteland deck. I think that's enough. We haven't seen much of our opponent's deck. We just saw generically good blue stuff. And Temporal Mastery, which is unusual. Okay, we can lead off on a Tamiyo. If our opponent's doing fair stuff, that's going to be really irritating for them. I think that's worth keeping this hand, and we can start try and snowball into some other stuff. Because they're not going to be prepared to answer Tamiyo from our deck. Although, did they see enough of our deck? Is the next question. I'll play out as Lotus Petal. This gives us the ability to Flusterstorm if we have to get this Tamiyo in. I think it's worth fighting. And this is our plan. We're hooking our wagon to this Tamiyo and letting us drag us over the finish line. That is the plan. This is hopefully going to be the matchup where it shows why having this card in your deck makes a lot of sense. We've been boarding it out a lot until now. Alright, we're on a green deck. Is this the blue-green up the beanstalk tempo deck? Our opponent's screen name is familiar because there is someone here on Magic Online who loves playing this deck with like Hootin Mandrills and Temporal Mastery and stuff. So maybe this is the deck. Let's get stuck in with your friend of mine, Tamiyo. We don't have to draw a card right now. We can wait till next turn and we're doing our opponent's turn. That way we can hold up Cunning Wish and Flusterstorm without losing the petal. There might be situations where we want to use the Cunning Wish to get like a Force of Negation. Up the beanstalk. I honestly don't care about this one that much. I don't think this is where we're fighting. Our protection spells, like Flusterstorm, is really strong as a protective spell, and that's how I'd like to use it. Get busy with these clues. A land, that's exactly what I wanted to draw. Not quite the land I wanted, but I'll take it. We can play out this Tropical Island. I'm not willing to just send the One Ring into all this. We can protect it with the Flusterstorm. We can just keep cracking clues and getting where we need to go. If we can find a Planar Nexus, we can do a reasonable sized Colligan's Command. Temporal Mastery. I don't like that one, but I don't think that's where we're fighting. Now, the old Time Walk that also draws you a card. And a Wasteland. They're not using the Wasteland yet because they might draw a card that changes how they want to use their mana. I like that's a good disciplined use of that Wasteland. Now they're going for it. I will float blue mana. I'll let the blue mana go away. We're planning to just crack a clue here. Tamiyo of their very own. It's good. And a ponder. This isn't going to flip the Tamiyo. This is their second card draw, if I remember rightly. Come on, clue taken. Another Kozilek's Command. Not a card we can actually cast right now. A stock up. Stock up is good. Let's go get an island. Oh, we're running out of fetchables there, aren't we? Let's stock up. Force of Will. I'm willing to fight over this Force of Will. I think so. Okay. What do I like here? I like the Planar Nexus. That gives us a bunch of mana. And I like the stock up. That gives us more action. If I'm worried about Kaito, I hold back the Tamiyo. I don't think I'm worried about Kaito. So opponent's on a Bug Beans list, but they have Temporal Manipulation, whatever it's called. Temporal Mastery. Mastery, Manipulation, Mastery. Okay. Life of Alone getting back a Wasteland. That is somewhat irritating. That makes these Kozilek's Command in our hand look terrible. And honestly, I've not been impressed with this card in this particular deck today. I think this is probably the weak link for me. What if I was to cast another stock up opponent? How do you feel about that one? Force of Will, the last one. What about this one? Force of Negation. You got it. We're going to lose our land here. We didn't have an option to fire this off to try and take out the Life of Alone because we didn't have the mana. We could have gone and got the Surgical off of the Cunning Wish. But I figured resolving the stock up would be better. And if our opponent's just going to... Oh, did they just mill over a Temporal Mastery they could have had? Alright, so they're going to pick up their Wasteland and they're going to Wasteland us again. We don't really have a lot of mana sources that we can rely on at this point. This is definitely a weakness of this build of the Omni Tell deck compared to the more stock version. Show and Tell. I'm going to draw a card here. So we can find a land or something. A Brainstorm. Yeah, we just have... These two Kozilek's Commands are going to be dead for this entire game. We're never going to be able to get two colours. Actually, that's not true. We could find an Ancient Tomb. That's the only way we can realistically cast this card. Whereas with any of mana sources, we can cast the One Ring. It's probably time our opponent puts a threat into play, like a Murktide or whatever. And that's going to be closing the door very quickly, I would imagine. So you've got through Force of Will, Force of Negation, Force of Will. Here is that Murktide I just mentioned. I'm happy for your opponent. It's a nice powerful card that's going to mess us up. An Omniscience. I think this is going to be... Brainstorming here flips our Tamiyo, which isn't ideal. But we need to get something going. Because the Tamiyo is probably just going to soak up an attack from the Murktide if our Brainstorm even resolves in the first place. Okay, it did resolve. We have a plan with these cards. We can cast them now if we think it will resolve through our opponent's... Our opponent's got a clue to crack. They've already gone through 3 forces. I guess we put the One Ring on top. And one of these commands. Haven't seen a daze yet from our opponent. Do we just shove? I think that's our best chance of winning the game. We can try and lose the game slower, but this is our chance to actually win the game. Oh wow, we're in. And we have the Cunning Wish, so we should be A-OK here. So I can cast this without paying its mana cost. We're going to save the Cunning Wish until we get an opportune moment. Or it's just the last thing we do. Because if our opponent has some weird... This is the first time our opponent has priority, so they could Boseiju this. Whereas if we start off with the Wish. Consign to Memory. Do I even care about this? Honestly, no. We've got a stock up. Stock up is good. So I would like to have access to the One Ring, I guess, and Force of Will. We'll cast this One Ring for free. Consign to Memory. Okay, so now we can happily cast this with our Force of Will up, now that we've exhausted our opponent's ability to interact with us. Where is our shared summons? There it is. Let's cast this for free. Let's go and get Emrakul And Atraxa. Alright. We managed to tie it up. Pretty tight one there, but it ended up working out. I think I'm happy with how we sideboarded. I'm just going to go back in. Oh, this hand is slow. I don't think Mistrise Village is actually particularly good here because they are a Wasteland loam deck. We do have a big Kozilek's command if that's what we want to be doing. Okay, we're going to try this one out. I don't think this is a keep, but I would like to see how it functions. And I think that'd be interesting for you lovely people at home as well. Planar Nexus. Let's just get this in and we can start working on our big mana plays with the Kozilek's command, or we can filter it into a Brainstorm. Our opponent is brainstorming. Right, there is a Wasteland. That's fine by me. The One Ring. I'm going to play an Urza's Tower with the intention of using Planar Nexus. I'd rather hold the Planar Nexus because it does filter for blue, which might be an important thing down the track. But we can just play the One Ring next turn. Now, our opponent is probably going to have an answer. They didn't play the Beanstalk, though. Here is Planar Nexus. I think I'm going to try and bait them with his Kozilek's command. Also, if they get a Life from Loam, I would like to be able to remove this Wasteland. Temporal Mastery. Ugh. Not in love with that one for us. This card seems to be doing interesting stuff. Now, it's not as potent unless you have a threat in play, because you really get to make use of the extra turn there. But right now, our opponent's just kind of taking a nice bit of extra value. When they have the Beanstalk running and it's a free card as well, that's going to feel real good. They found green mana, so we're going to see the Beanstalk here. I would have to assume. There is the Beanstalk. So we're going to do a little Kozilek's command here. This means if our opponent wants to interact with this now, they're not going to get the cards. I don't need this. I do like the Force. So going up to 5 cards. Chances are there's a Force of Will over there. And Atraxa Grand Unifier. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're not a million miles from casting this. I don't think that's what we're doing here. Do I want to play out this Ancient Tomb? Or would I rather have this Mistrise Village? Getting that in now. How much soft permission am I expecting from my opponent? Alright, I'm going to play this Mistrise Village tapped. And pass a turn. Because we can use this next turn to make our One Ring uncounterable. Because we can filter the mana through here. Ponder. We could interact with that to try and stop them getting a Wasteland. They shuffled. If they miss on Wasteland here, then I think we are golden. Thoughtseize. I don't really want to force this. I think the play here is to Brainstorm in response. Please don't Augury Bowmaster me. I need these spawns. Are they going to Force of Will that? I'm going to force back. Pitching Brainstorm, I think. I can see the argument for pitching the Lorien Revealed, but we're pretty close to casting this. Can I Brainstorm, please? We can Brainstorm. What are we going to put back on top? It's probably... It's definitely the One Ring. That's going to be the top card. I'm just deciding what the next card down is. How realistic is casting Atraxa here? Blue, green, another colour, and we're still a ways off. I think we're hiding the Cunning Wish. So they can take our Lorien Revealed, but they can never take our freedom. Our freedom to cast the One Ring uncounterably. If they have access to a Wasteland here, I don't think they've played a land yet. That would be really irritating. I think they go for the Atraxa rather than the Lorien Revealed. So we could have done this in a different way, I suppose. No, because we didn't have the Scalding Tarn then. So what you can do is you can use this to get your Tropical Island, which gives you an untapped Mistrise Village. Can they beat an uncounterable One Ring? They're probably going to have something like Null Rod in their deck. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that we, stick the One Ring, get a card off of it. Maybe even get 2 more cards on top of that. And then that's kind of where the fun train ends for us. I took the Lorien Revealed. It's a Ponder. We still dig in. It's interesting they cast the Thoughtseize before this Ponder, but I guess Thought Seizing us lets them know what they had to deal with, so they can ponder looking for the answer. They didn't shuffle. That means they probably found the Wasteland here. They found another Thought Seize. Okay. So they're assuming that we're going to put a Show and Tell on the stack, I think. Alright, that is an Underground Sea. That's fine. Do I want to draw a Cunning Wish is the question. So we turn this into blue. The next spell that you cast can't be countered. Do I want to draw a Cunning Wish? I don't know. We don't need to decide yet, so we can just pass. What is the Cunning Wish realistically going to do for us? Not actually that much. But if they play something that we really want to interact with, we can do that. I think we're probably just going to go and fetch an island and then activate the One Ring in the end step. But the One Ring is going to overpower our opponent here. Kozilek's Command. That could do a lot of work here, can't it? So we can have an uncounterable Kozilek's Command for 4, which can answer a swath of potential problems. I really don't want to have to exile this Wasteland from their graveyard, but there's a possibility we might. Let's make an uncounterable Kozilek's Command. This is for 5 actually, isn't it? I don't want the tower, I don't think. Although we can just keep making increasingly large Kozilek's Commands. That's quite interesting. This and this makes our Atraxa uncounterable. Then we have 1 mana, 2 mana, 3 mana. So we're still a ways off of that. I think we're just going to bottom some of these things. More cards. Let's go get that Show and Tell in our hand. Stock up. But I like an uncounterable stock up. I'm okay if this gets countered, I think. A Force of Will. Urza's Tower. We're going to do a massive Kozilek's Command that's uncounterable. I like a lot of these cards, it must be said. We don't need all of these Show and Tells. We can put some on the bottom. Cunning Wishes in multiples are good. We'll put Omniscience on top as well. So we want to draw Force of Will first. Actually, if we cast this One Ring, we can't be Thought Seized then. And that's like the one thing that beats us here, right? And we'll keep this new one. Draw a little bonus card. Oh look, it's that card we knew it was. So now we can't get Thought Seized. They can't take our only Show and Tell. Maybe we should have put another Show and Tell on the top just as a little bit of extra redundancy. But now we're going to have these Cunning Wishes as well, so we're just going to have extra protection. So we'll draw some extra cards, because why not? And then we'll make the next spell uncounterable. Do we have a fetchable? We do have a fetchable. I will fetch that fetchable. Okay, we have a basic island as well, actually. That's good news. So this is an uncounterable Show and Tell. I'm just going to put in an Omniscience. Alright, our opponent's scooping to that, and we got the match. So we're cruising. We got a 3-1 so far. Let's see if we can put the 4-1 on the board. We've got a basic island into Tamiyo start. That's pretty good. We have a Show and Tell. We just need some mana to get there with the Atraxa on it. That's fine too. The Brainstorm, I believe, will find us some lands at some point. But in the meantime, we're going to be accruing some value off this Tamiyo, making our opponent think about it, panic, possibly even burn counter magic on it. That would be best pointed at the Show and Tell they don't know is coming. I would replace one of these Brainstorms for a land, ideally. But I'll still take this hand. Let's get the island. Your friend and mine, Tamiyo. Soporific Springs. Are they going to play a Tamiyo as well? Pinnacle Emissary. Yep. So this is some sort of 8-cast shell, I would imagine. How many zeros are they going to play? This might mean their hand is kind of relying on these guys to do work, and Tamiyo is exceptionally good against these drone tokens. These can block Tamiyo. So we can't really attack to get that clue, but we can still just Brainstorm, which we might want to be doing anyway, purely so that we can find another land drop. But shutting all these down is going to be pretty strong. I could Brainstorm in my upkeep where our opponent doesn't get these 2 triggers, but I think I would rather draw another card first. Kozilek's Command. And now they're having a look at the next card. Alright, Brainstorm. We found a land. It's not the best land. Portent of Calamity does let us shuffle, sort of. I guess it's not especially important which order we put those in. Let's plus the Tamiyo. So we don't care about drones. We do care about these as mana for the purposes of Kappa Cannoneer. This Emery has found them, said Kappa Cannoneer. Okay. I guess we have to brainstorm here because we're not really doing a lot else. Oh dear. We're not going to hit this third land anytime soon, are we? Our Tamiyo might be able to just ultimate though. I think our opponent is very indexed on trying to get a Kappa Cannoneer into play. Patches also works. Now they can play this Bauble, which will get them a trigger on the patches. And then the turn after they can attack for enough to make this Tamiyo go down. Right, they're warping in this Pinnacle Emissary, which is going to give them some more power on the patches. And Urza's Bauble as well. These patches might just be able to solo out this Tamiyo pretty soon, which is then going to unlock all of these drone tokens. There's also going to be a Kappa Cannoneer next turn as well. So I think we have to Portent of Calamity just so we can clear the top card of our deck, which is pretty ugly. The other option is we minus the Tamiyo, but that doesn't feel like an option with this board in front of us. I think we need to use this to buy us another turn, and hopefully we find a land, we show and tell in something useful. The Atraxa is going to be pretty good on this board, and our opponent's not really going to interact with it very much. They might have more Sink into Stupors or need to Spellbomb, but they don't currently have access to it from what we can see. Not in love with this Portent of Calamity, I'll tell you that much. This is multiple times this league that we've cast this as a 2-mana draw a card. Let's plus the Tamiyo, and now we're in hoping for the best territory. Yep, and as a Saga, that's another problem that we'll hopefully never have to worry about if everything goes to plan. We somehow need to draw a land and an Omniscience this turn. Not sure how we're going to manage that one. This Patches is so big. Oh, Tamiyo. Can they get the Patches big enough? They can. Now this is whenever you cast, right? So they need to cast one more. They have the Emery, yes, they can just cast anything they want. And they're also going to cast a Kappa Cannoneer this turn, because they've got plenty of drones. So they'll probably have lethal damage next turn. So we have to put this Atraxa into play, I think. It can block some of the things. It might just have to block and trade with the Patches, because it does have Death Touch. So Kappa Cannoneer coming to play. That Patches is very much going to kill our Tamiyo. Goodbye, Tamiyo. Right, we need a land to at least consider playing this game for longer. I think they saw... What do they see? I don't know what they saw off the baubles, but they must have seen some of this nonsense we've got. Let's go for this show and tell. I don't believe is going to resolve. It might do though. They've only got 2 cards. But what would they not be playing here? Okay, let's have an Atraxa. They're going to put another Kappa Cannoneer in. That'd be hilarious. They put another Emery. So we put our ability on the stack. There goes off first. Is this going to be... No Spell Bomb. That's something. Okay, I like the Omniscience a lot here. Obviously. I'll take the Emrakul. The Force of Will. The Lotus Petal. And we get a land here. We're probably not losing any of our mana. We could just take the tower. So we can play this one out. We can go to cleanup. We've got 9 cards in hand. Okay, Kozilek's Command and Cunning Wish. We need to not die this turn. So we take 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. No, they have lethal here if they see... Oh no, because we gain 7, right? Yeah, okay, so we're not dead. And then we do maybe get to win. Because we just get to like do Emrakuls and... Sing into Stupor. We have to say no to this or we die. So we lose one of our Cunning Wishes. This is going to be real tight. 2 mana. Patches. Okay, so we have full information of what tools our opponent has. So I think we win this one. What are all the modes of Sublime Epiphany? Okay, it's got a lot of modes. We'll worry about that in a bit. So this can't be blocked. They could just send in with the Kappa, so we don't gain life, but then we get another turn if they do that. They send with everything. We block the biggest thing, gain a bunch of life, and then we get... They know that we can Omniscience. Alright, they're putting a bauble in. I'm not sure what they can hope to draw with a single card. This does give them 2 triggers for the Kappa Cannoneer. I thought we were very dead. And the power of Atraxa is getting us across the line, hopefully. Is this just a big full send? It is. We block the place we have to block. 18, 19, 20, 21, but we gain 7. So we get a 4. And then our opponent has no cards in hand apart from whatever they get off this bauble. Play his tower. Let's cast Show and Tell. Put Omniscience. What are all the modes of this? Counter target activate, return target non-land permanent, create a token that's a copy of target. Okay, that's not really what we need to do here. Let's cast this without paying its mana cost. That gets us an extra turn. We don't need to do anything else just yet, I don't think. We just have to go to our extra turn. Okay, so can we counter target activate ability, return target non-land permanent, create a token that's a copy. So we can't use this to take both of these out. We can use this Eldrazi Confluence to do that. This is an instant, right? It is. Okay, so we'll cast this Cunning Wish. We'll go and get this Eldrazi Confluence. We'll cast this. -3, -3. -3 is fine. So we'll kill this, and this, and this. And then our Emrakul can't be blocked and we get to kill our opponent. Whew. Took a little bit of work, but we did manage to get there. So this is a matchup where I would like access to Null Rod. I think Grafdigger's Cage is also pretty tasty looking. Sign to Memory. I think I want to Dismember here. Don't really want Flusterstorm though. So I think it's just these 5. What do I not like? Not really into the Force of Negation. The Tamiyo is fine. I think the Portent of Calamity is just bad, and I'm not really convinced that we want that many Kozilek commands, but here we can use them to blow up our opponent's graveyard, which is kind of cool. If we're boarding this stuff, maybe we board lower on Cunning Wish like we've been doing, and maybe just cut a couple of these Kozilek commands. Our opponent is quite an aggressive build, so I don't think we want to be able to have the previous round. We had a long game where we could actually leverage the Kozilek commands and it looked good in that game. But the rest of the games today it hasn't. So I think this is okay. Tamiyo can block relatively effectively, and if it flips, it just blanks all of their little tokens, as you saw, and that was the thing that actually gave us enough time to win the game. Although we wouldn't have needed that as much time if our deck would actually just draw us the lands. We can't keep this, it's got no lands. Story of my life today. I guess we keep this one. Put back one of the Nexuses, Nexi, however you wish. I don't like this hand. I think it's keepable, but I don't like it. If we draw an island, that's okay. We did not. I will play a Planar Nexus and pass. Next turn, we can Show and Tell, but we don't get anything good to put in. So we're probably just playing a Tamiyo with the intention of brainstorming the following turn and cracking a clue in the same turn. So this is going to be popping very soon. This can go and get them an Ether Spell one, which bounces our Emrakul, so I'm not interested in that. Let's make some blue mana off of this. If we get in a situation where our opponent won't have obvious access to an Ether Spell Bomb, then I can just Show and Tell, put the Emrakul in, and that's going to be good enough a large portion of the time. Because Ether Spell Bomb is pretty much the only way they're going to interact with this. Now obviously they can counterspell our Show and Tell, but that remains true regardless of what we're putting in with it. They got a Mox Opal off their Saga, and now they're making a guy. That's not really a display of strength in my opinion. Omniscience off the top. Not an Omniscience off the top. Okay. Can't always have it all. Okay, let's attack for 0, but make a clue. So we could crack the clue and then brainstorm, or we could brainstorm and crack the clue. If we brainstorm, do we have the opportunity to Show and Tell? So we'll have 2 mana left over. If we find like a Lotus Petal, we could Show and Tell. So I think we're supposed to brainstorm first. It gives us the option of potentially Show and Tell Omniscience. Force of Negation on our brainstorm. I'm going to draw a card with this clue. Another Planar Nexus. Okay. They really don't want us flipping this Tamiyo. But that's not really my game plan here. My game plan involves putting an Omniscience into play at some point. So they could get a Pithing Needle here and just Pithing Needle the backside of Tamiyo. They're taking mana off the Saga instead of making... I guess they can't make a guy actually because they don't have enough artifacts. Lava Spur Boots. Alright, we're just going for the we want to try and beat you down plan. And they got a land here to follow up and attack with both. They do indeed. 4 cards left in their hand. It's a Lotus Petal rather than a land. But that means what they've got in hand isn't land, so they've got some gas. I have to imagine more counter spells. Alright, this is a big old hit we're taking. They still have the Spell Bomb coming from here, so we still can't do our Emrakul plan. Alright. This is A-okay with me. Let's attack with the Tamiyo. Got our clue. Our opponent can probably kill us next turn. So let's make some blue mana here. Let's cast a Brainstorm. I like the One Ring a lot here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we have enough to Kozilek's command away one of their guys as well here. I don't really want this Ancient Tomb clogging up the works. And what land are we playing? It's probably just going to be this Trop. So we have to keep filtering to get our mana. Plus the Tamiyo. Do I go for Kozilek's command first? I would like to... Yes, we do, because we can't do it after the One Ring. So we'll exile a creature. And I will draw a card. This doesn't take them off Metalcraft. I've got Force of Will over there. You got it. Now we're going to go for this One Ring that we hopefully have baited out. Enough answers. I wouldn't be surprised if they just had another Force. And there it is. I think that is game here. Because this is 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So if they just get an artifact here, we die. Our opponent needed the triple Force and the triple Saga. And by Jove, they've got it. And they got the Memory Garden as well. So this is plenty of damage. They both get reduced by 1 though. So this is 5 and 6. Which, I'm not a mathematician. But I'm pretty sure that adds up to 11. Maybe they'll go after the Tamiyo. They did not go after the Tamiyo. They are going after our face with their lethal attack. Okay. We have one more game of this league to go. Let's see if we can come on top this time. Do we want this Kozilek's command just to blow up their little guys? Potentially. I don't know how we fit this in. I don't see a good option for fitting it in. I think we're just going to ascend again. We could play the Mistrise Village and try and play a slower game, but as we've seen, our opponent is a Patchwork Stompy and the Pinnacle Emissary. They're trying to be a very aggressive version of 8-cast. This hand does not do it. We don't have the land. Okay, a turn 2 One Ring is not nothing. We have to put back a card. What card do we put back? It probably has to be the Kozilek's command because we want to be able to play the One Ring and defend it. That is our strategy. Seat of the Synod. Pinnacle Emissary. This is a hand that we are probably better poised because their opponent's probably going to have a bunch of zeros. So they're not necessarily going to be full of counter magic to mess up our plans. They've just gone for put some pressure in, draw some cards off of our baubles and see what happens. Yeah, so they've gone for a very, very high pressure hand here. And we're just going to try and force through our One Ring and just assume that we can win the game with a One Ring over a few turns. Which isn't a bad assumption because the card is pretty darn good. Another Force of Will. That's excellent news for us. Alright, they seem to be F6'd over there. A Null Rod. A little bit of a nombo right now. Disruptor Flute. No thank you. And another one. I think we might be dead here. We can shut off all that mana. Grafdigger's Cage and Null Rod. There's no point playing these out. Our mana base, once again, coming back to bite us. Yikes. I think we're going to go down in this particular match. Double Disruptor Flute. A little bit on the rude side. Emery. So there's definitely some use playing this Grafdigger's Cage. Patchwork Automaton. But we are going to be very dead very soon. We could have just played the Graphics Cage last turn, to be honest. Omniscience. So you're saying there's a chance. Graphics Cage. This does mean that the Emery's going to go sideways. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then the One Ring kills us. Yeah, we're just stone cold dead to the Double Disruptor Flute. Now, we might not have got there by drawing cards off the One Ring either. If we look at our next few draws, yeah, we're probably not getting there at all, to be honest. Unfortunate. So we finished with a 3-2 record, which is not great, but I'm certainly not a show and tell specialist at all. We did keep a couple of hands to see how they would play out, rather than necessarily going for what we knew was really good. But let's talk about this list. So I have some real reservations about this. I do like that Planar Nexus plus Urza's Tower gives you the One Ring on turn 2. That is obviously a very powerful thing. In fact, it's one of the most powerful things you can do in the format. However, we're not maximizing our rings to take advantage of that. We are also trying to leverage a bunch of this colorless mana so that we can do stuff like Kozilek's Command. The problem with doing that is so many times this card just sat in our hand doing nothing. And that is a little bit sketchy. It feels like things are already going very well for this card to matter, or it's just to be a slow matchup where you can eventually win anyway. Like the matchup we won that was slow, we didn't necessarily win because of Kozilek's Command. We won because of Mistrise Village at the end of the day, because just having that protection from counter spells on our spell was just backbreaking for our opponent. Portent of Calamity was awful. Now, it's a one-off, and we did draw it more often than maybe we should have. And there are certainly going to be times where you have a bunch of mana, you draw this, and you go, oh, sweet, we just get to do everything now. But I think the floor of this card is so low that I don't think it's worth including in the deck when you could just play, I'd rather have a 4th One Ring than this Portent of Calamity. Let's just quickly pull up a more stock Omni Tell list. So this is what most Omni Tell lists look like. Although this one's got Eureka, which is a little bit unusual. But let's look at the mana base, which is what I really want to look at. So this is an 18 land mana base if we're including the couple of Sink into Stupors here. So it's going to be less mana than we have here. But only 3 of that mana is colorless. The rest is all going to be blue. So we're going to be able to actually cast our spells, which was something that was a little bit tricky. This build also has an additional Lotus Petal, so it's kind of splitting the difference a little bit. And it's got Ponders, which obviously act as part of your mana base as well as find your combo. Now, the version we're playing not having Ponder, I 100% would prefer to have Ponder to Kozilek's Command in this deck. Just flat out, Ponder is very good. Ponder is also exceptional once you have Omniscience in play, because it helps you find your pieces and set up. Then once Omniscience is in play, it finds you the next piece of action, or the next cantrip, or the next stock up, or Cunning Wish, to make sure that when you get your Omniscience in play, you don't fizzle and lose the game. Whereas Kozilek's Command is just draw 1 card when you have the Omniscience in play, because you can't put mana into X. You can't just choose an arbitrary number for X. You have to put mana into the X. So this doesn't really work under Omniscience very well. So I would definitely like to play more One Ring, Tamiyo versions of this deck, but I think we'd be better off just cutting these 5 cards for a start and maybe making our mana base just more solid in the first place. I'm happy with 20 lands, but if we just make them into better lands, we bin off these 5 cards, that gets us another One Ring, another Tamiyo, and 3 Ponders. I think our deck immediately becomes stronger, and that's something I would be interested in. Now, Kozilek's Command can be removal, so it does have flexibility. It's not like this card is just bad. We see it being played in the Eldrazi decks as well as in the Mystic Forge decks because of its power. But I don't think we get to leverage it. And we can be kept off of being able to cast this through Wastelands quite easily. So I'm just not sure this is the one for us, because we're trying to cheat on mana, right? We're trying to get this show and tell in so we can cast our big mana creatures without ever having to cast them, if you know what I mean. So this kind of runs counter to that plan. This wants us to produce a lot of mana. This wants us to produce a small burst of mana that immediately wins us the game. And I'm not really sure that I like the K command here. It's also not blue, so it doesn't pitch to any of our forces. But I think Omni Tell is looking a lot better than it was when we were dealing with the menace of blue-black Tempo Reanimator. And now that's gone. I think there's definitely a spot for this deck to shine. But it certainly has its weaknesses, and you can take it apart. But when it does its thing, it's very powerful. We also got quite lucky to keep drawing show and tells. We only have 4 in the deck. It's not like we're playing sneak and show, we have additional payoffs. Now, the One Ring is kind of just a payoff on its own a lot of the time anyway. So I could see just going up on some One Rings here. Like, why would we not be running more of this card? It's so good. And it does exactly what we need to. It buys us time and digs. And that's all we really want to do with our deck until we win the game. So I think there's definitely some good Omni Tell builds out there. This isn't my personal Omni Tell build of choice, but it felt relatively respectable, even if the mana was definitely treading on our toes on numerous occasions. All right, I hope you enjoyed this one. Please remember to like and subscribe. Become a Patreon member for just a couple of dollars a month and just say thank you is lovely. Or a YouTube member, see my videos early for only $1 a month. There are financial ways to support me that I really appreciate. But most importantly, keep watching, keep enjoying. Goodbye. If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget turbo depths as well as 3 tiers of support. A low cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel. A mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed turbo depths guide that is updated every month as well as regular articles. And lastly, the higher tier gives you all of the above as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.